This is Carla Atherton, Director of the Healthy Family Formula and host and producer of the Children's Health Summit. And this is day 5 of 7 days to a healing plan for your child. And I'm going to get that. There we go. And it skipped the, okay, skip the disclaimer. No, don't skip the disclaimer. Please read the disclaimer. And every day of this program, I would have you read the disclaimer just to remind you that this is for informational, educational, inspirational purposes only. And I am here to empower you with information, and it is up to you to make the decisions that are right for your family. So day 5, the plan. We've gone through a lot of materials over the previous 4 days about the many things that can cause a chronic condition, as well as a hefty list of tools that will help to heal, reverse, or significantly improve your child's health. Now we need a plan that will lay out what tools you will use and when. This planning will greatly improve your chances of success because when you are organized, you will be less likely to be overwhelmed, lost, or disheartened, and more likely to be clear, empowered, and hopeful. So when my daughter received the big diagnosis, I got busy and I got organized. I completely understand and empathize with 2 other moms I know in our community whose children received the same diagnosis mere months before my daughter did, and both had nervous breakdowns. But I think that the reason I did not was that I knew there were things I could do about it. And I got busy educating myself further and getting my poop in a group. It was not easy. Actually, I should have had a slide for that, poop in a group. It was not easy. No, it wasn't. And I still went through it all. The mourning, the anger, the frustration. But my feelings were not really toward the condition and the belief that there was nothing I could do. Like that wasn't what I was feeling, but toward the lack of support I was receiving. Now I try to lessen the blow for other parents by teaching them how to relieve the stress and respond rather than react. And a huge part of that is to create a plan. Okay, so the process of planning can get complicated, but my purpose here is to make it as easy as possible for several reasons. So the first one is parents can feel overwhelmed and powerless, both of which come out of fear, disorganization, lack of direction, and lack of support and solutions. Parents can always find knowledgeable clinicians to do it, parents can't always find knowledgeable clinicians to do it for them or even guide them. Therefore, parents need to be informed, inspired, and empowered to do this work themselves. And fourth, and even if parents have ample support, the people who are really making it all happen are the caregivers, most of the time the parents, that are in the home every day, and the kids themselves. So they need to know what they're doing and why, and be all in regarding the treatments, practices, and therapies that they will be employing. They have to decide what they want to do and understand why they are doing it in order to reach the goals they have set. All right, so making the plan. Let's get organized here. So we start here with remove sources of stress, add sources of healing, and start to replace with positive lifestyle practices and re-inoculate the body with healthful foods, nutrients, and thoughts. So here are the tenets of the plan. Identify the problems, identify your goals, consider your child's health history, identify root causes, assess current therapies and strategies, including medications, identify possible solutions, therapies, and timelines, create a budget, keep records and map progress, keep healthy practices, and move on from therapies or temporary therapies once they have served their purpose. We'll go through that after this presentation. I'm going to be going through the actual map that we're going to be making, or the plan, so we'll go through those one by one. All right, so issues to always address, and those would be epigenetics, so whether the genes or the genetic expression is actually flipped on or off, and we actually largely control that by our environment and the food we eat and the things that we do. Stress reduction, always address stress reduction. Family and community. So that's really important. That's like our central world, you know, for our children, the family and the community. Diet, always, always, always address diet. I don't care what it is, diet is always key. Reduce or eliminate EMF exposure. And that's like actually, I think that, you know, again, it doesn't matter what's going on with your child, EMF exposure will cause more problems because it creates inflammation and DNA damage, as I've been saying. So that's like it's like one of the top ones that we have to do across the board for everybody. Environment, okay, so consider that, address the environment. Lifestyle, of course, you know, with the sleep and rest and exercise. Detox, that's another thing we always address in every single plan. Is that child detoxing properly? And if they are, you know, do they have the tools to actually make it happen? And, you know, are they detoxing from their cells and then out through the organs of elimination? So we need to address detox always as well. Sequencing and priorities. So we always need to understand, you know, the order of which things need to happen and which ones need to happen first and which one's second and which one's third and which ones can kind of wait and shake out in the wash later. Issues unique to your child. Of course, we need to take that into consideration at all times. Our children are all unique and everyone has different needs, and that even affects everything else that comes above that. Fine-tuning and individualizing. So that's another thing, you know, with our unique children, there's somewhere to start at all times with the foundation and then building from that foundation, dealing with the usual suspects, but there's always some fine-tuning to be done and individualizing the plan. All right, next one. Okay, always have these upstream goals in mind. So when you're making your plan, you want to balance the microbiome and improve mitochondrial health. You want to reduce or eliminate chemical exposure and presence in the body, which means you want to detox. You want to eliminate heavy metals and exposure and presence in the body. That's another detox. We don't want metals. Rectify nutritional deficiencies and toxicities. So stop eating the chemicals and the bad oils and start eating some more, nutritious whole foods. And always positively affect epigenetic expression. And that epigenetic expression is affected by the food we eat, the sleep we get, the environment we live in, the chemicals we encounter, the sunlight we get, the nature we live in. All of those things affect how our genes express. That is really, really, really important. Okay, so setting a budget. Okay, so when you are making a healing plan for your child, you must not forget to create a realistic budget for testing, supplements, and therapies. You will certainly need money to pay for all of these things. There is no way around this. However, regardless of whether you have the means to do all of the testing and buy the best supplements or on a tight budget, hoping to be able to meet your child's needs, there's always a way to make a plan that can accommodate your financial situation. And it's just really, really, really common. It's probably the number one stressor for parents of children who have chronic illness, parents in general actually, is money. Always, always, always money. And it's just, it's a barrier to treatment. It's, it can create a lot of stress around it. Even if people sort of scrape it together, often people are, can be in debt or, arguing about what comes first, second, third. So we need to really help ourselves, as parents by creating a budget in the beginning and knowing what we're looking at when we embark on this child's plan. So determine how much money you will have on a monthly basis to allocate to your healing budget, to your healing budget. And the items might include, and they can include more than these things, testing. Often in functional testing, they're just not covered. They're not covered by insurance companies or by the government in Canada. In Canada, we have a lot of things covered by the government, which is really basic blood work. We don't have any of the advanced testing that's available through these independent labs that we talked about the other day. So, testing can cost money, but if you are really careful and you plan out which tests are the most important, that you really can't get by without, that will give you the most information, most bang for your buck, there's some money that will have to be spent on testing and retesting. Organic food, it's going to cost a little bit more to eat organically. You can be really economical and you can find sources that aren't just expensive. You shop around. I call it hunter gathering. That's what I do. I don't just go to one grocery store. I go to different ones in different areas and I order from the farmer, and then I go pick these eggs up here, and it just actually becomes, it can be a good time. I kind of like doing it because I get to know who's growing my food, who's, who I'm buying my food from. I appreciate those resources that are supplying, good food and healthy food to my family, and they care about us. So yeah, buying organic food can cost more. But again, there are a lot of perks to it. And one of those things is, good health for your kids. All right. So supplements cost a lot of money, actually, because supplements are always pricey if you're going to be getting quality supplements. A little caveat here is do not buy supplements from the pharmacy. Any kind of, I shouldn't name names, which I won't, but nobody from this company is going to hear this, but any sort of big brand supplements that you'll find in the grocery store or in a pharmacy. Some grocery stores actually have natural aisles, but a lot of them just don't. They have it in the pharmacy area. Just don't buy those. Those are really damaging actually to the body. They can actually harm the liver. They're full of fillers, a lot of allergens, and they're not even bioavailable. So they're not going to do the job that you're looking for. So supplements are going to cost you some money if you need them. Again, we always start with the pillars and the basics, and then we see what we need in the end if we need to supplement here and there to boost up that nutrition. Also, supplements can serve a lot of different purposes, not just nutritional purposes. Nutritional as far in the sense that we understand nutrition to be, like we need vitamins and minerals, yep. But certain vitamins and minerals, botanicals, herbs, things like that, they actually serve other purposes for healing. And so also switching on and off that epigenetic expression. And some of them, turn on certain pathways or help to detoxify. So supplements can be a really, really important tool. We just need to be able to pare that down and figure out which ones your child needs. And then therapies and supports, that's really, those sometimes cost, well, they most times do. Some people are covered for chiropractic or naturopathic doctors, or massage therapists or occupational therapists. Sometimes people can access these supports through their schools, their work, maybe even the medical system. So, seeking those things out, seeing what's at your disposal, which things you do want from those systems and which things you don't, and then figuring out which ones you're going to have to pay for out of pocket. And then making a plan as far as how often you afford to go, how much it's going to cost, how far they are from your home, all sorts of things like that to think about. So it's really important to do that ahead of time, because if you don't, often you can get partway into a therapy. Like let's say you're doing cold laser therapy and you have, your goal is to reverse, arthritis or type 1 diabetes, or to elevate your child out of a depressive state. And so cold laser therapy was actually extremely useful in all three of those cases. But you don't want to get, 1 or 2 sessions in and then you can't afford it anymore. And you haven't even had a chance to make it work. And then you waste that money because you haven't gotten anywhere. So really make a good plan as far as what therapies you're going to employ and what supports you're going to need. And then decide what you're going to do, and make a really good actual schedule as far as how often you're going to be able to go and how often you need to go, because they usually can meet, those, you can usually meet all of your needs by being really smart about it and just thinking about it ahead of time. So retesting, I've said that when I talked about testing, but sometimes you need to retest, and many times you do. And I mean, if it's something like an infection or something like that, and you're like, okay, what is this infection? And then you're better and there's no fever and there's nothing, no residual effects. Well, you probably don't need to retest something like that. But if you're looking at something like autoantibodies that you want to see coming down, and you have symptoms, but they're not really indicative of whether or not you're getting ahead in the therapy that you're doing, you may need to retest. So again, we're selecting very targeted tests. We're not doing very many unless we have a super complicated case and there's certain things that we really need to find out. But usually that's not it's maybe like a couple of tests that you'll have to redo just to make sure things are going well. And that really gives you a good barometer to measure your success and maybe some setbacks, and maybe something's not working, that you're doing. Okay, so clearly define your child's needs and prioritize what must be dealt with first. So that's really important, to clearly define your child's needs and prioritize what must be dealt with first. And again, that has to do with bandwidth. Like there's only so much you can do at once, and it's only so much you should do at once. And also for money, for budgeting, energy, time, money, attention, how much attention you're going to be spending on certain things. So again, prioritize. Start with the foundational free improvements in your home habits and lifestyle. Okay, so we're wanting to start again with the foundations. You're going to make a lot of headway just by making those changes in the first place. You will see a lot of things happen, and then the other stuff, if that's starting to shake out in the or come out in the wash, really you will not have to deal with so many things at once if you're already starting with the foundation and things start to improve already. Choose the most pressing areas to start with and invest your money there. Okay, so I was saying prioritize, see what needs to be done first, and then you can see where you need to invest your money. I love this little chickie in the in the slideshow. Oh, I'm such a sucker for fuzzy, cute things. But anyway, so take the plan step by step. You do not have to do everything all at once, nor should you. Okay, so and then find financial aid if there's something fundamental that you need but cannot afford. And that's important. I mean, sometimes we just need some help. Some people actually kind of turn to credit cards. It's not the best idea all the time, but if you have the means to pay it off and you just need a sort of a chunk at first, sometimes you need to pay for a test or something. We may need to go there. I mean, maybe some people have equity somewhere, they have to cash in something, or they ask for support from a family member. And this might be the case. Like, let's say if your family is facing something like mold infestation in your entire house, and your whole house or your whole household, everybody there is sick. Sometimes we need to take those measures. So, find out what your supports could be. People do all kinds of fundraising. They look to family for support, for not just financial support, but sometimes just somewhere to go, somewhere to stay while they clean up their home. Or if it's just more testing for a certain child, or supplements, maybe you can't even afford the supplements, but grandma and grandpa have a few bucks and said, hey, I'll help you. So that's all right to reach out and find help from other people. I don't see any sort of shame in that. Because the goal is to get everybody better. And once you're better, you're not going to need that anymore. It's not forever. So setting goals and realistic expectations. Our goal here is to optimize your child's health. We're not here to cure or diagnose or treat, although we sometimes refer to the methods of health recovery as treatments. Those are medical terms that do not apply here. What we are looking for is root cause resolution, so that your child can be in the very best health possible. And this may mean that they significantly improve or even completely recover from their health challenges. Our ultimate goal is to see previously believed diagnoses no longer apply to your child. And this may look very different from child to child, depending on each child's strengths. And depending on each child's challenges and genetic potential. It will depend on whether your child has experienced significant physical injury, or if their health challenges are purely metabolic or hormonal. And even with conditions we understand to be permanent, we have learned that many of them are not permanent, and we can also grossly underestimate the body's ability to heal. We just need the right tools, information, inspiration, and you guessed it, a plan. So health is not always perfect either. Even when we are fully healthy, there is no measurement of health that fits everyone at all times. In addition, health is individualized, and the principles of bio-individuality lead us to our own unique health formulas. Success at being healthy looks different for everyone and everybody. It is a process and not a destination. And although wanting to live healthfully or to recover or to attain the best health possible are motivational goals, perfect health is a moving target, which involves flexibility, letting go, and celebrating the successes, however small, that you have on a daily basis. There are many possible outcomes to the plan you will create, so do be gentle and patient with yourself, the process, and your child. There is no predetermined destination except to feel good most of the time without having to worry too much or put too much effort into just living a good, vital life, whatever that may look like for your child. I have a mistake. Oh, well, that's supposed to be a period. So reach for the stars, enjoy the rocket ride, and marvel at every planet you land on along the way. Strive for what could be, because this motivation keeps us vital and always improving. But accept what is, because there are gifts and beauty in every single day. So there's my pep talk. And I mean it, though. I mean it, because in my family, we actually celebrate all kinds of things. And we even have, when my kids were little, we used to have unbirthdays because it wasn't anybody's birthday, but we wanted to celebrate. And, you know, I had parents tell me that, you know, I celebrated the day when I started to wash my son's clothes again because he wouldn't change them before because he was so ill. You know, I celebrated the day when they were starting to leave dishes around the house, or, you know, we celebrated when, you know, we had like less joint pain, just a little slight bit less joint pain that, you know, the next day we celebrated, you know, when there was a little bit more talking or, you know, walking, and we have to like recognize all of these little milestones because they would seem small to people who are just used to those, you know, everything sort of going tickety-boo. But when we see those things start to fall away, the stuff that is, you know, considered, you know, what we have lived with for a really long time with our kids, or are worried about, we need to celebrate it all, because it won't all happen in one day, but every single day is enjoyable because we make progress every single day. So that's, again, my pep talk. Okay, so I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to new share. I'm going to share the document that I called the 7 days template. And this is available to you. I created this so that parents can actually have a template to actually make this plan, because we've been talking about a plan all this time, and it's like, well, what is that? What do you mean? What's a plan? How do I do it? You know, where do I write it down? Scribble it on a notebook, or, you know, and then it can seem a little bit disorganized. So we don't want to be disorganized. We want to have our poop in a group. We want to be, and that's, like I said, I meant every word I said in my little presentation there when I was talking about when things happen in my family, I get organized, because that's the way I stay sane. And then people say, well, how did you do it all? And how did you manage it? And I said, well, I just had to keep it all sorted out, because when you don't, it becomes chaotic, and chaos creates fear. It creates lack of focus, lack of direction. You just don't know what to do. You're like a deer in headlights, and we don't need that. We need to be focused and clear. And still, you know, enjoy ourselves along the way, you know, because this is life, you know, we do have lives. It's not all about this healing plan. That's the point, right? Is to return to life. But we still need to have a goal, you know, be very clear and set in the direction we want to take. All right, so here's the template. And again, this is going to be available to you in 3 different formats. A Word, I think I did actually provide that too. Yeah, in a Word document. And that's just so that if you want to type it in, you can. I provided it as a PDF, so you can print it out and fill it out just on the sheet. And I also provided it as a link to a Google Doc. So if anybody uses Google Docs, you can just click on that. You don't even need a Google account, actually. I don't think. You just click on it and it goes to my Google Doc that I created. And basically all you do is fill it out online. But no, actually you can't. So you need to copy it from mine and then paste it into your own Google Doc or your own Word document, and you can just fill it in there. But you can't actually fill it in where I provided it, because otherwise it would mess up my template. So I just have it where it's read only. You can cut and paste it wherever you like. Use it to tell the cows come home, print it, all that kind of stuff. So that's for you to have. All right, so here's the plan, the healing plan template. Again, we went through all these points in the presentation, but I just want to kind of expand on them a little bit. And so everything here should really give you the tools to make a very good healing plan and keep everything all together. It is 14 pages, but that's no big deal because a lot of them are just sort of, point form. All right, so identify your goals. What kind of improvement do you want to see happen for your child with regards to their health? Write your goals here. And I think that's really important to set out your goals right at the beginning. Some parents, they just want to see some improvement. They just, want to expand. It depends on what your child is actually challenged with. But, some people just want to say, I just want my child to be able to talk and communicate better. I just want my child to, want to be a little bit healthier, enjoy life more, like just be able to have the energy to run around with their peers. And some people want complete and total reversal of their child's illness, dropping of a diagnosis. And, all of those things are attainable. And I think that it's really important for parents to be clear on what those goals are, right here at the very beginning. Identify the problems is the next area. So we know we have a goal. And so what are the problems? What are the things that we're really needing or wanting to focus on? And every parent will know what those problems are for their child, because, it's the thing like, well, my child doesn't sleep at night. My child has tantrums. My child has poor eating habits. And so therefore they are anemic, or, the doctors or the nutritionist or the naturopath says that they have low B12, or, these things, and it's creating, maybe some mental health problems. So the main complaints are the actual symptoms. So the symptoms of those things would be like the mental health problems or the tantrums, the behaviors, the not sleeping at night, those sorts of things. Those are the complaints, okay? So what are the main complaints for your child? And you don't have to list 10. There's just room there to do that. And go ahead and do whatever you want with this. You can write on the back, front, it's yours, to just take notes. And then list any clinical diagnosis your child has received, or diagnoses, if it's plural. And oftentimes they are, because there's such thing as comorbidity, and your child can have more than one thing going on. And most times kids do. Illness, and especially chronic illness in our modern times, it's just never one thing at a time. It's most of the time it's complex. So list that here. And what you're going to do with that information is it's going to help you to define what you want to do, to actually address those things, but also maybe what things might start to fall off of your child's chart. That's the point, is to start crossing those diagnoses off. List any further testing your child may need. Okay, so if you're still kind of looking for reasons and for causal factors, you might want to say, okay, well, I still think we need a GI test to test gut bacteria and for parasites and for any sort of overgrowth of yeast. You might say, well, I would like to test my child's neurotransmitters because they have mental and mood problems. Or you might say, I want to test my child's, for Lyme, he got bitten by a tick, had a bullseye rash, and hasn't been the same since. So there may be a wish list you have here for testing, and this is where you would put that. Health history, briefly give briefly give a 1 or 2 paragraph snapshot of your child's health history. And yeah, just let her rip. You did the health history a couple of days ago. And so you can just take sort of like jot notes about it here, because then you can sort of translate a few of the details here to have it in this one document, because this is like your quick reference here. So there's a bit of space to do that. And then after you do that, because you've got all of this information in the first 2 pages, and you use that information to start identifying root causes. So think about when certain health problems arose and identify what may be some causal factors for the health complaints listed above. Okay, so we've learned enough to say, okay, you know what? I feel like our house is a bit moldy and musty, And the bathroom that my child uses, I can see a little bit of something in the corner of the shower. And so those things you're going to be starting to identify. So, number one, you might say possible mold in the shower. And so mold would lead to, perhaps mold illness. And well, there's all kinds of stuff we could get into, but we won't have time in this session. But other causal factors that we discussed, were heavy metals, GI issues. One thing I really didn't go into very much was dental issues, and that's actually quite huge. I might even amend some of these materials to add that, because dental infection, cavitation, they can go on for like ever, and people don't really know, and it's sort of like poisoning it's like directly into the bloodstream. Just every single day. So cavitations, root canals, and the presence of mercury fillings. A lot of children, had not very good teeth when they're babes, and sometimes they all get capped over because the dentist thinks, well, they're going to fall out anyway, so it doesn't have to look pretty. But that can really cause some mercury toxicity. So there are all kinds of things that you can identify. Now, there is a sort of like, there are checklists that I have. I'll share my intake form with you so that some things that you can start looking for, but I'm abridging it because it's a little bit overwhelming. But as we discussed a few days ago, actually, we talked about a lot of the root causes. And so you can even just list even those broad categories here, because it really will give you a lot of direction. Like, if you're concerned about mold, it's very easy to say, okay, look, I'm going to investigate that and see if there is any in your home. And there will be mold specialists around. You have to find the right person that actually does put some stock into mold illness. You don't want someone coming in and going, you're fine, and don't even check, and they sniff around and that's it. No. So if you suspect something, find someone who's competent in your area to deal with that particular issue. And then again, you're looking at GI causes, you're looking at infection, you're looking at bugs, parasites, heavy metals, environment, poor diet, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, neurodevelopmental issues, things like that. So as you learn, and you might not know all of these things, and you may need a coach to help you through this, which is totally fine, but if you need help with that, there are plenty of coaches that can help with that. But I think for you to know that you need to find root causes, that's the very first step, is for parents to know that they need to start thinking about what happened. Why is this happening for my child? Assess current therapies and strategies, so including medications. So list therapies you are using or have used in the past and how effective they have been. They can be everything from diet to massage to chiropractic care to counseling. So really, this is a great place to reflect on what your strategy is. And I guess strategy is a terrible word, because I actually really advocate for natural living, like the natural rhythms, and not trying not to schedule in things so rigidly. But when it comes to like something that has to be consistently done, like a therapy, you really need to make sure that it's happening on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be rigid, but it has to be regular. It doesn't have to rule your life, but it has to happen. It has to be part of your life. So here you can list the therapy. I know I didn't give you much room, whatever. You can flip it over and do it again. Like I said, use the other side of the paper, or just type it in if you use the Word document. And so it's the therapy itself. So what's it called? Is it massage? And the time frame and frequency. So, time frame, I mean, we were doing, this is current. So we're doing massage, once a month. So from April, and we started in April, and we're still doing it presently. So the time frame. So how long have you been doing it, and how often? And then the purpose of it. So why are you doing the massage? Well, for XYZ, stiff, or relaxation, like stress reduction, I don't know, whatever you use massage for. I use it for like a lot of stuff, because I do Thai yoga massage, which is like massage on steroids or something. But so anyway, and then results. So what are you seeing happening with that massage? Or chiropractic care, acupuncture, that kind of thing. And that's a really good way to see if that therapy is for your child, if it's working really well, if they like it, if you're getting the results you want to see. And sometimes you need to sort of shake it up a little bit if it's something that's not really working out for you, or if it's sort of served its purpose, or you need a different like therapist or practitioner. You can keep track of all that stuff here, so you know what you've tried, how long you tried it for, and then you can revisit it or change it, whatever you want to do. All right, so list all supplements that you have given to your child to address their current health challenges. So this is really important too, like really, really, because you think you're going to remember and you don't. You are not going to remember when you did this supplement, how long you did it, what the frequency is. I actually should have put dose here. So, keep track of what the doses were, like, because sometimes you haven't even hit threshold. So like you said, oh, I took like 1 magnesium a day, or I gave my child that before bed and it didn't do anything. Well, you can take magnesium up to bowel tolerance, and that, which means like if it starts to cause like some looser bowels, you just back off a little bit. But most people are deficient in magnesium, and it is an essential like mineral. It is like you can't do anything without magnesium, and magnesium is one of the best tools for kiddos who have stress or anxiety or sleep problems, and because of those symptoms are caused by a magnesium deficiency, and partially so, right? So it's very important to know what you're doing and how much you did, and so that you can adjust once you find the right information. Because like I said, you're not going to know everything right off the hop. You're still going to be learning. And as you research, you'll find more information as far as like I was saying, threshold doses, or even sequencing. Like I took this and this and this and this. Well, maybe that was way downstream because your child needed to detoxify first or get their liver working well. Just eat well first and nurture that liver with maybe some milk thistle for couple of weeks, and get the bowels going really well, and then you start introducing more like things like detox methods, and building the microbiome, and getting better nutrition as well. So it's really important to keep track of what supplements, time frame, frequency, purpose, why you're taking them or giving them to your child, and the results you had. All right, so list all medications that you are currently giving to your child, and also medications that you have given your child in the past. I think that's really important to know all of that. I mean, if you said, my kid doesn't do any Tylenol, any blah, 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 but that might have been just because you learned that it wasn't probably the right thing to do at the time. You decided, well, I don't actually do that anymore. But your child has a history of taking quite a lot of Tylenol. They had reactions when they were, let's say were vaccinated and they were given Tylenol right after. That's really important information to have. And especially if that kiddo has some GI issues now, or mental health issues, maybe autoimmunity, mercury poisoning, things like that can, it points to what the medication could have had a part in that. Especially with like nutritional deficiencies and chronic use of Tylenol, and also other medications that can be more heavy duty. And some kids, like pandas, are on that kind of spectrum of PANS. They may have been put on some heavy duty steroids and used quite a lot of heavy duty antibiotics, I was going to say, and maybe some steroids. Some kiddos who have ulcerative colitis have been put on, steroids. And actually there's some people are put on a whole laundry list of things. And, even kids are put on proton pump inhibitors, SSRIs, antipsychotic drugs, ADHD medications like Ritalin. There's a lot of stuff that can be thrown at our kiddos at a very young age. And so it's important, if you're trying to unravel that whole thing, they could still be exacerbating issues. They could be contraindicated with any of your supplement list. And they could also have caused issues earlier on that you're sort of trying to fix now. So you really need to know where your kids started, what they're still on, and what you're trying to unravel, especially if you're trying to get them off of this medication. And a lot of times, if you have a list here, and you have, like, let's say you have something on here, a medication that's supposed to be anti-inflammatory, right? So you're on a steroid, your child's on a steroid. You go back to your supplement list and then go, well, what can I add to this supplement list that would be anti-inflammatory to replace a potentially problematic medication? So it's another way to compare these two lists and maybe start getting this medication list a little on the lighter side, maybe to nothing at all. And the supplement list, not necessarily fill up the supplement list, but that is one area that you can add to use a safer method of care, as well as, adding more therapies and such like that, and lifestyle factors to further lessen the list under medication. Identify possible solutions, therapies, and timelines. List therapies, methods of healing, or simple lifestyle challenge or changes that will address your child's health challenges. That was a tongue twister. Draw from the list of therapies and lifestyle changes that you have identified above that have been beneficial for your child so far. So leave off the ones that have not, or that you have learned to be of little use. Okay, so you don't need to keep doing something that's not working. Just ditch that stuff. It's totally fine. As long as you're using, like, if let's say that thing was supposed to have this purpose, and then okay, well, I'll try to do something else that has the same purpose that might work better for my child. Again, draw from the list of therapies and lifestyle changes that you have identified above that have been beneficial for your child so far, okay? And also incorporate other methods, lifestyle practices, and modalities you would like to add. Okay, so there's lots of stuff you're going to be learning in this program and also outside of the program. And if you continue to work with me or, absorb information from the summit or anything that I write, all that stuff, there's so many things to be learning all the time. And you can add those things to your list as you learn about them and see how they work for your child. Highlight what will be most successful and sustainable for your particular child, your family situation, your lifestyle, your budget, and logistics. So, how close is a therapist to your house? That might make all the difference. You might go, well, you know what? I can't do an hour drive one way every day and then on the way back. Or every other day. We've got life to live. People are busy, and like a family these days, it's like herding cats. Everybody's in a different direction. It's not always the best situation, but sometimes, other things have to happen. And we don't want a life full of therapy appointments either and driving to and from them. So if we can make it, whatever way we can make this easier, we're going to be looking at that. So assess that, what your family situation is. So you've got an older kid who drives, or if you've got triplets that are 2 years old, or like your particular child is doesn't like a certain thing, or isn't really interested in swallowing capsules because they're too little, or they don't like it, but they'll do a spray or something like that. So really there's so many variables that need to be taken into account. And so this is what we want to be doing is taking that into consideration when you're creating this personalized plan for you. Be sure to include at least one or two therapies or methods of healing for each of these categories. Okay, so this is what I was talking about when I meant like categories. So we always want to be doing something to reduce stress. Always. This is not just sick, well, whatever. This is to keep you well, maintain your wellness, and get you well. And when we ignore this, we get sick. That is just, it will happen. That is not a question for young and old. So stress reduction is always something that we look at. And those things can be so like many, many, many things. And some kids, it's just going out to play. Sometimes it's just, on the playground. Sometimes for those teenagers, it's just some alone time. Sometimes it's teaching them to meditate. I think that children need to learn how to meditate from when they are small. And this isn't a religious thing in any way. It doesn't have to be any sort of, denomination or any kind of background that way. Some people find that they like that, and sometimes they go to church, and that's a form of meditation as far as I'm concerned. Our prayer it's a focusing on something to settle the nervous system and leave everything else out that doesn't need to be in that chat, like in the brain that's usually chitter chatter, to be in the now, to leave the past, to not worry about the future. And so children that learn to meditate have a better time at life in general. They handle life better. They handle their illness better. They are much more, they're easier to not get along with necessarily. It's not the kids, it's a relationship, right? It's not that there's anything wrong with them. But they have a better time of it. And stress can actually cause illness in people of all ages. And it's also exacerbates it, and it makes it impossible to heal. Stress actually will get in the way of your child's healing. So it's very important to seek out different methods of stress reduction, and put a couple of them here. 1, 2 of them, it could be something that you do every day. Reading is actually, a good way to reduce stress as well. And Epsom salt baths, humming. Kids like to sing. We love to sing. Drawing, things like that, reducing the stress. But a focused way to do that I highly, highly recommend it. All right, so mental emotional support, that's another thing. You need to do something, put something in your child's plan that addresses mental and emotional support. And that's just like a different category than stress reduction, because it's not actually even an activity. It could just be a way of viewing things, a way of talking about things. It could be practicing gratitude, encouraging your children to look at things in a different way than just always being sick or always being unwell and thinking about that all the time. Sometimes parents or families need to go see, a counselor or something. I don't think talk therapy is like the thing that we all need to have. I don't think we all need to have professionals to go to therapy sessions with. Some people really value them, and it depends on the therapist, whether or not it's going to be a useful tool for you. So we don't necessarily need a professional, although some people do find that useful. Especially even the parents, right, that need some kind of way to, deal with the day-to-day of this kind of situation. But I think, with stress reduction, that sort of thing happening, and allowing parents and their kids to respond and not react to everything, that's a really big step toward, healthy mental and emotional support. But I'm talking as well family, friends, neighbors, communities, other communities of people who are going through similar things. Be careful though, not to get too caught up in how would I say this delicately? There are a lot of groups out there that are very, very, very supportive and helpful of each other, but sometimes it can get to the point where everybody's just talking about the bad, and nobody's getting better, and there can be a lot of that happening. And so just try to watch that, and just come on out when it looks like it's making you feel less happy, and go and do something else. Go be with a different community that isn't going through the same thing, and maybe can pull you into somewhere else, something, a better state of mental focus. So, okay. And then, so you're always going to need some kind of support there for sure. Family and community. Okay. So that's another area. I was just talking about this support being, maybe it's family and friends as well. This is just another extension of that. And it could be found online, it could be found in, in your neighborhood, like-minded people, sporting groups, or teams and that kind of thing, because it depends on what your child is going through, but they still need that sense of community as well, and we're not just sitting here like in a bedroom getting better or something. It's not like that. People are still living, kids are still trying to go to school, and if they're not at school, they're still trying to function in their home, in their neighborhoods, with their friends. So family and community are huge. Huge. So, what ways are you reaching out to those people? Sleep is, yeah, you have something in this your plan regarding sleep. And I'm talking like, well, do a sleep assessment, do a sleep hygiene assessment. Look around that room and say, ooh, gonna get rid of that blue light and the plugged in alarm clock and the computer and the clutter. And it's really dusty in here. There's no fresh air, maybe a little mold in the window. You know, what else, like for sleep hygiene, like sleeping right beside the fridge on the other side of the wall. It's a little noisy. There's light coming in the window. You know, there's so many things that you can look at. Oh, bedding, you know, it's non-natural bedding, or we just bought this and didn't wash it, so there's chemicals in the bedding. The pillow, maybe my kid's allergic to it because you know. And then also the practices of sleep, you know, turning off those blue lights way before bed, like at least 2 hours, following the rhythms of the sunrise, the sunset, you know, our natural circadian rhythms. You know, getting to bed at a good time, winding down. Don't do, you know, super crazy things before bed and getting the adrenaline and the cortisol up. You know, spending some relaxation time, some me time before bed, maybe family time, play a game, Epsom salt bath, you know, a warm shower, lavender, other botanicals that are calming, tea. Oh man, can you tell I've been thinking about sleep a lot? And some kids even do some supplements if they have sleep problems. Even some teenagers, some people who have high anxiety, maybe if they have bad restless sleeps, you know, they could be doing something like a bit of melatonin, and like I was mentioning, lavender before bed. You know, so these things or magnesium is beautiful too at this time of day, like lots of really good minerals, even a mixed mineral. Those things are really helpful to improve sleep. So I just gave you a whole bunch of places that you might want to list for your child's plan to improve that aspect. Okay, so there's exercise as well. Of course, that has to be part of the plan. Even if your child is not really able to do any sort of hard exercise, and sometimes they shouldn't, because exercise obviously is a catabolic, can be a catabolic process, so which means that it tears down tissue, and then where you build the muscle is where you're resting. So that's when the muscle is built. So it kind of like tears it all down, and then it builds it back up again to make it stronger, right? So you don't always want that happening with kiddos that are just really in that delicate state. If your children are, you know, good to go, you know, you're outside, I mean, they naturally move. And so turning off the TV, maybe even point to better exercise, or, you know, the gaming, I think is a real concern, especially for our boys. For some reason, I don't know, it tends to be boys, and it might just be that dopamine hit and something to do with those boys' chemistry. But you know, we're really, and girls, you know, like they've all got their phones, you know, young age as well, and that exercise is really suffering. Not to mention the sleep as well. And so, you know, increasing the opportunities for your child to exercise, and even if they are, you know, like I said, have really big health challenges, to get them through, you know, some movements, like just, you know, and it doesn't have to be an exercise program, but it could be something fun. Learning even how to juggle, it's exercising the brain, and it's moving around and getting some blood going, and, you know, some gentle stretching or some yoga. I think yoga is good for everybody, and you can do it at any level. It could be, you know, from the most delicate right to people, like some of those kids are like, how do you do this? I want to do this back bend, and I want to do a handstand, and, you know, have fun with it. Go play basketball with them in the driveway, you know, or a little soccer game at the park in front of the house. All those things are really, really, really important to get the blood going and good mental health, good circulation. And anyway, we talked all about this a couple of days ago. So exercise, list a few things for exercise. I'd probably even do all 5 of those. Fill it up. Okay, so rest. rest. Again, we talked all about that. List 5 different things, places where your children can rest. And some of these things might intersect. I mentioned magnesium baths or Epsom salt baths when we were talking about sleep. But that's also a really restful endeavor. And so is meditation, which we were talking about in like this mental, emotional part, So, but you might want to add things that are, include creativity and, just Lego, just like I think reading's a really restful activity, just doing nothing. Let's not do anything. Let's go sit on the deck, Those are just wonderful times to put on some tea and have your tea and a little discussion about the day. So environment, there's extra space for this category. Okay, I had to leave at least 10, and I think you could just do more. I mean, just use, let's say you're on number 4 and you list and keep listing and listing. Just use it every single line, fill it up if you want to, because environment is a huge issue. And every place we turn around in your house, you're going to find that there's going to be something you want to change and something you want to change. Don't get overwhelmed. Just take it one thing at a time and say, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. I don't think I'm going to buy that particular product anymore because I didn't know what was in it. Or, oh my goodness, I didn't see that before. Or, we don't ever open our windows and I'm going to start trying to do that. And, things like that, just like little things, and start changing them one at a time. But you can make this comprehensive list. Go hard, just write it all down. And then that way it's on your radar. Don't be afraid of that. So number 1, reduce or eliminate EMFs. And this one there's a couple things I added for you. Sorry, but I did. And so the EMFs, I think everybody has to do this. Everybody has to do this. This is huge. And I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over and over and over again. There are hundreds of studies on PubMed even about this. This is not new, and it's not theory. This is actually a real danger. So EMFs, so you reduce EMFs or eliminate them, and you can make a separate list somewhere else on how to do that. There are many books. I can provide resources for that, but there's a book called The Non-Tinfoil Hat Guide to EMFs, and that's by Nick Pino. And then there's another book called Zapped by Anne-Louise Gittleman. Lots of resources and actually as I'm talking and recording this, there's an EMF summit going on by Lloyd Burrell. He's an amazing person and really did a lot of work and continues to do so for people's educational purposes, trying to help people to get better, and many more. There's just so much out there. You just start looking it up and reading, and but those books in particular have quite a few tips on how to do that, how to reduce the exposure. Number 2, eliminate chemical cleaners in the home and garage, especially with the attached garage. I would be concerned about attached garages. Always back your car out of the garage if it's warming up, obviously. Just there's so many things that you can do to just reduce it. Reduce. And then chemical cleaners, I don't know if they have a place in the house at all. There's so many alternatives now. Just a bit of, vinegar and some baking soda and water and some essential oils can take you a long way. And then look for mold. That's another thing that everybody should do, especially if their child or you yourself, your parents, have some kind of chronic condition. You look for mold in that environment. And then just list some other areas that you would like to improve your environment. All right, so diet. Before you make a list of improvements you can make regarding diet, first clarify your child's current diet. So, what's the typical breakfast? What's the typical lunch, typical supper, snacking and when they do their snacking, child's food preferences, and noticeable reactions to particular foods. These are all really important things to know. Then you can decide how you want to adjust, what you need to do, what you're missing, what you're getting too much of, what you shouldn't actually feed your child. And if they have eczema and they get it every time they eat dairy, just don't give them dairy. And that's just a simple thing. And it's one of the easiest tools you have, because that's either you're exacerbating issues or you're healing the body by every forkful you take and every forkful you feed your child. So this is one of the most powerful ways and where you're most empowered with what your child is taking into their body. All right. List of diet improvements. Okay, so here's your list, right? So, and take into account, again, special diets, foods to add, foods to eliminate, and the essentials are already added in for you. So, okay, I'm going to be bossy again one more time. Non-GMO organic. The more I learn about this, the more adamant I am, and I know it takes a while. Like, it took me years to actually switch to virtually 100% organic. And I buy very few items that are not organic. And it took me a long time. First, it was cost, obviously. And then I'm one of those people that instead of buying clothes, I'd rather buy good food. It's like, I'm like in rags and like, well, it's not that bad. But, they're like, Mom, you need to wear something nicer. I'm like, I know, but I don't care. Let's go grocery shopping. So, yeah, but if you listen to some of the summit talks, which you all have, and again, I've recommended this, I think, in day 1 and day 2, like listen to Stephanie Seneff, listen to Jeffrey Smith. They give you the lowdown. And I'm thinking after you listen to them, you're not really wanting to buy anything that has chemicals in it, sprayed in it or on it. So, and it's major. Like, some people will go non-GMO, not even organic, but non-GMO even, and start reversing chronic conditions just from that one act alone. So why not? I mean, this is a foundation. This is a foundational piece. So I've added that in there for you. And then whole foods, anti-inflammatory. Okay, like we don't want to eat inflammatory foods. We're battling inflammation when we're battling a chronic illness. We want to keep the inflammation down. We don't want to be buying our kids French fries at the mall when we're trying to reverse a chronic condition. It's just counterproductive. And then whole foods, like not a bunch of sugar. We want a slow burn, like we were talking about a couple of days ago. So I added that in for you too. And then the last thing I added in for sure is no additives, preservatives, or chemicals. So reduce the amount of packaged foods. That's the easiest way to keep those things out of your child's diet. And then there are some packaged foods that are actually decent. Like, you can get things that are like, dehydrator, apple things or something, like, apple chips that are just apples, really. Like, or you can get, there's lots of stuff. You just have to read the labels. So your budget, slotted each of the therapies and supplements that you feel will benefit your child and will cost more money than you are already spending in your household. Make a list of possible costs, then make a separate pared down list of what your family can afford. If you're testing, you must budget for retesting, and you must create a plan that is financially sustainable. You have to be able to sustain it. The purpose for spending can include testing, supplements, therapies, anything you will have to pay for. Do not forget to include a budget for retesting if needed. Like I said, I'm repeating myself. And sources of aid and assistance when there is an item your family can't afford but is essential for your child's healing. Okay, so the money thing, it's dreaded. It's dreaded because this is literally the Achilles heel of healing in this modern, in our current healthcare what would I call it, system, our healthcare system. Because for one thing, it doesn't recognize a lot of the functional testing, functional blood work, functional methods of healing. It's not going to cover supplements. It's not going to cover, like our system isn't going to cover, it might cover medications, but it's not going to cover supplements or, a trip to the chiropractor. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Like, there's a lot of things that are not covered and that are going to cost money for our families. And so this is one of the main reasons why I see healing plans come apart, is that they just don't have the budget. So, really give it a go and see what you can, like, assess what you have to work with. So I want you to make an ideal list and then a paired list. Okay. So I said in this just now was, here's your ideal list. Okay. So if I had enough money, and it's not all the money in the world, I'm going to do these frivolous things, but according to my own child and what we're seeing here, this is what, we would actually ideally spend to get that kiddo, to where we want them to be, to optimal health, for whatever that means for them. So, month January, I put 12 here for 12 months. But January, the purpose of, you know, this, whatever we were doing, the source, which is going to be like a test, let's say, the purpose of that test was to find out nutritional deficiencies, and the cost was XYZ. So we did this in month 1, and then we could do that again in month 6 when we were retesting. And then, you know, so you can make a list of all of these things that you see as, you know, foresee as costing money. That will cost money. Okay, so make that ideal list. And then you say, okay, look, this is actually what we can pay for. And so we're going to pare this down a little bit. Okay, so we can't do 4 different things for gut healing, but we can do one of them, and they all do the same thing. So we're going to pick this one. And this one is the best, you know, product for a child. It's the one that they're going to take in the form that they're going to take it. And it's the best. It might be a little more money than this one, but we don't have to do 4 of them. And it's better for, you know, my child's particular purposes. So you have to just make all of those decisions and then make your realistic list. So keep records and map progress. So use this space to list any notes that you want to add. So there's just a little space there if you want to add some notes about whatever you had just started planning above. And then use this space to note any changes or adjustments to the above plan, map progress and setbacks. Okay, so this is really important because you want to be able to keep track of the adjustments that you made. And, you know, you might even use this when you're going to like other practitioners. I think it's really useful. I think people would, you know, if you have other supports like that, professional supports, really easy to bring it and say, okay, look, this is what I've been doing. Super easy. Yeah, so then you want to be keeping track of those adjustments. Keep healthy practices. Okay, so we're almost done. Some practices and therapies are meant to be temporary and used as a therapeutic means to a health-filled outcome. These methods may become ongoing health support and maintenance, such as chiropractic care or massage, or may come and go as they become useful or as they fulfill their purpose. Stick to a therapy long enough to see results, but be flexible and allow yourself to make adjustments to your plan at any time you see fit. Something not working out, stop it. Something you need something more, look around, see what you can add to that. As long as it's not contraindicated with whatever else you're doing, you are comfortable with it, you know it's the right thing, add it in. It is important to revisit this plan regularly to map progress and be clear about when to make adjustments. It is also important to celebrate every single success along the way as you note the work you have done and watch your child's health improve day after day. All right, so last point here, sequencing and priorities. Making significant change in a household or a child's health does not happen all at once. Make this process easier by simplifying and identifying how you can handle this challenge step by step. Write some notes about what you want to accomplish in steps 1, 2, and 3 of your child's healing plan and or your family's health transformation. For example, step 1 might be to clean up your family's diet and your home environment as you test and prepare for results. The next step might be to work on gut health, nourish the liver with good foods and a supplement or 2, and start basic therapies. Okay, so that would be step 2. And the third step might be to begin a gentle heavy metal detoxification program once your child's body is eliminating properly and able to pass toxins. Because you don't want to start detoxing in step 1 because you don't have the foundation and you also don't have the means to get out whatever toxins you're starting to stir up. So it has to happen in the right sequence and steps. Taking it step by step makes executing the plan manageable and sustainable, and also safe. You know, safer, more. The chances of it being a success are much higher. All right, so step 1. Here's what you would write. So you just write what your step 1 is going to be, fill in what your step 2 is going to be, and fill in step 3. And that's it. We have a plan.